Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the dialogue on scaling tilapia production in India. Tilapia is a freshwater fish that lives in shallow streams, ponds, rivers, and lakes. It is the second most important farmed fish globally, next to carps, and is referred to as aquatic chicken because of its low maintenance cultivation needs. It is affordable, easy to eat, and is a great source of protein, essential fatty acids, and other macronutrients. Towards meeting the vision of the government of producing 22 million tons of fish by 2024-25, inland aquaculture is expected to drive the growth, and tilapia is a key fit towards the same. As part of the Scale Committee's work to advance the growth of the tilapia industry in India, World Fish and CII have prepared a report study to analyze the opportunities and what is needed to significantly expand tilapia production in India. Today's dialogue has been organized to discuss the action plan to be implemented to increase the production and productivity of tilapia in India. To begin today's dialogue, may I request Mr. Arbind Das, Chairman, CII Task Force on Fisheries and Aquaculture, and CMD NutriWiz Global Advisory Services, to kindly deliver the welcome remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It is my privilege to welcome Mr. Jatindranath Swain, Secretary, Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy. He has been gracious enough to always support the industry and guide us to align our work that we do for the augmentation of fishermen's incomes. The industry is working closely with him and his department on the resolving the challenges and creating a holistic roadmap for the fisheries and aquaculture sector, both at central and state level. We look forward to your guidance, sir, as we scale up our role in global market through this endeavor. So it is my privilege to welcome you. I am very happy to welcome Dr. M. Bijay Gupta, World Food Prize Laureate and Sunak Peace Prize Laureate, and former Assistant Director General, World Fish Center, former Research Coordinator, International Network on Genetics in Aquaculture. He is considered a pioneer in the Blue Revolution of Southeast Asia, and his presence today is a privilege for us. I believe due to his hectic schedule, he could not join physically. Happy to have you join us over the digital medium, sir. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. John Benji, Lead Genetics Group Acting Director of Aquatic Food Biosciences, World Fish, Malaysia. His research experience and contribution to the aquaculture sector is immense, and we are eagerly looking forward to your guidance, support in enhancing the aquaculture sector in India. I welcome you, sir. I am also happy to welcome Mr. Salil Singhal, Member Scale Committee and Chairman Emeritus, PI Industries. His rich experience, passion and leadership and outlook on the global market helped us in taking forward the fisheries agenda a long way under the Scale Committee. I welcome you, sir. I'm happy to welcome dignitaries, professionals, scientists, and media and the audience. We have also joined by many participants from across the country and overseas through the Zoom platform. I warmly welcome them. I also wish to acknowledge the support of the CII Secretariat led by Ms. Jane Karkada, Senior Director, CII. She and her team have been driving all these activities behind the scenes. On behalf of CII, I extend a warm welcome to all of you for this session. India is the third largest producer of fish and other aquatic foods in the world, with nearly 10 million people residing in more than 4,000 coastal communities and relying on the sector to earn a living. Initiatives to improve fishers and farmers' income are critical to reaching India's goal of no poverty by 2030. The CII charts the pathway forward towards change by working closely with the Government of India on policy issues to enhance efficiency, competitiveness, business opportunities in local aquatic food sectors. This is achieved through a range of specialized technical backstopping services and strategic global linkages that CII then interfaces with various thought leaders across the globe. Fisheries and aquaculture also has been identified one of the champion sector by the Ministry of Commerce, looking at the huge potential for export and domestic market. CII, along with Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Food Processing, Department of Commerce, NFDB, MPEDA, Seafood Exporters Association, Hatchery Association, etc., is working together to achieve the target of doubling the export by 2027. I am happy to inform you that under Champion Sector Initiative, encouraging and promoting new species and product diversification has been identified as one of the priority areas. CII, along with Department of Fisheries, Government of India, is working towards bringing the requisite investments and enablers to leverage the production and productivity across focus states in a sustainable model. Tilapia has been identified as one of the high-value species to leverage the current and future global market. Adequate investments, technology transfer, capacity building, and policy interventions that is required has been identified to achieve the set target. Just to inform you that during the pandemic, the only species trade didn't suffer is tilapia. It sustained its growth, momentum, and its forms changed from fillet to round hole face in the market. As part of SCALE's work to advance the growth of tilapia industry in India, World Fish and CII have collaboratively developed a report titled Business Case for the Scaling the Production of Tilapia in India, which will be officially launched today. Tilapia is the second most important farmed fish globally, next to carps, and some regard it as the most important aquaculture species of 21st century. In India, tilapia farming is at the nascent stage, hence providing investment and financial support to farmers and to industries is critical to build the production capacity pre-harvest and post-harvest. India has the required inland fishery resources to spur sustainable growth in tilapia production in coming decades. In 2018 and 19, only 58% of India's inland fisheries potential had been realized. However, to achieve the target of 2.15 million metric tons of tilapia by 2032, India needs to invest in tilapia production infrastructure, including hatcheries, grow-out ponds, reservoirs, and associate post-harvest infrastructure. Investing and boosting India's tilapia production is predicted to bring a healthy return on investment of around 24 to 30%, provide new business opportunity, earn foreign currency for India through exports. It will also ensure steady supply of affordable fish, protein to significantly boost nutrition among domestic consumers. The primary focus of increasing tilapia production is on increased livelihoods, job opportunities, particularly for women and young people in the rural India. Scaling tilapia production in India will help deliver simultaneously progress both domestically and internationally across several sustainable development goals of United Nations. I'm sure the effort of the Government of India, equally supported by the Indian industry, entrepreneurs, fishers, and other stakeholders in the sector, will reach new heights. We have with us the participation of tilapia experts, academicians, industry leaders from around the world. We would be deliberating and deriving a roadmap which would bring beneficial changes to Indian aquaculture sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Das. May I now request Dr. John Benzie, Lead Genetics Group Acting Director of Aquatic Foods Biosciences World Fish, to kindly set the context for the dialogue.
Mr. Rapala, Honourable Minister, Mr. Swain.
He hasn't joined.
Oh, but I'm acknowledging anyway. He may be in the virtual space.
Yeah.
So that, and Mr. Singhai, member of the Scale Committee, Mr. Das, Chairman of the CII Task Force, and Ms. Kakada, CII also, and also to Dr. Gupta, a predecessor of mine at World Fish, who I haven't actually met now for about 18 years, and I do hope you are online. Now, Dr. Gupta, I think, can tell more about the start of the GIFT program than I can, but I can tell you that I was present in the Philippines when the first generation of GIFT was produced back in the late 1980s. And it was the product of an international collaboration between World Fish, Norwegian experts, Philippines government, and others. And it's been a tremendous success. It's very difficult to gauge the extent to which a given strain can have an impact, particularly in a fluid circumstance, and no pun intended, for aquaculture. But it's estimated by World Fish that about 50% of the world's production of tilapia today, of Niloticus, is through GIFT or GIFT-derived strains. And that's a tremendous achievement over 30 years. But it's an achievement which has paralleled the growth of aquaculture globally. And I do recall when I first left school, just about to go to university, that was the first salmon farm in the same year as the first salmon farm in Norway. And you will all be familiar with the tremendous success of the salmon story and the fact that that was underpinned by the development of a genetically improved strain that was far faster growing. And that, of course, is what World Fish and partners achieved in the early 90s. And it was, in fact, the first attempt at that time to develop what was called a warm water species through genetic improvement. And the big question back then was whether fish could be genetically improved. So despite the success in salmon, the question was, could you do this with a warm water or tropical fish species? And the clear answer is yes. But in terms of the global context, there's huge growth in aquaculture from almost a standing start, apart from a few species that may have been worked on 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, has largely come about since the late 1950s. And in that time, the volume, or rather the proportion of fish that people eat is now almost 50% from farms as opposed to from wild fishing. And in the meantime, we've seen that the volume of production from wild fishing has remained generally static, but the aquaculture production has increased. But a telling component of this has been, in 2019, the discovery, or rather the publication by FAO, of the first state of the world's aquatic genetic resources. And it's found that despite the fact there's been this huge growth in aquaculture, the use of genetically improved, selectively bred material relative to agriculture is very limited. Its penetration in production systems is only about 15 to 20%. And they argue for a global plan of action to improve the amount and number of species that are genetically improved, and importantly, their use within production systems for aquaculture. And the opportunity then here for India is the use of such improved strains to gain from the market opportunities that exist today for tilapia. It's already been stated it's perhaps the second most important fish after the carps, and that again has been achieved simply in the last 30 years. But there are huge opportunities because there is a huge demand for this fish. And again, it's been already stated that it has a mild texture, which means you can do a lot with the cooking. There's a lot of value added that can be achieved. There's a huge demand from a whole range of markets, both sophisticated markets, but also in local areas. And the opportunity for India here is, one, to be able to utilize a species that is liked by locals in many parts of Asia, yet to be learned perhaps in parts of India. But it's a species for which there is huge demand. We have the technology of the improved strains. And we made that available to India, to RGCA, about 2011. So it's been here and it's been continued to be selected for Indian environments. And the main issues that remain are building the distribution networks, building the markets, building the infrastructure and the capacity to be able to produce the fish. So there's a tremendous opportunity here, not just within India, but for India to be able to gain access to markets globally because of the huge global demand for tilapia. I'll finish there and thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be here on the occasion of the release of this strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benzi. May I now call upon Mr. Salil Singhal, Member Scale Committee and Chairman Emeritus PI Industries, to kindly deliver his address.
Shri Jitendraji Swain, our Secretary, Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries and Animal Husbandry and Dairying. Mr. Vijay Gupta, who's online with us. Dr. John Benze, my colleague Arvind Das and Jane from CII. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly delighted to be here today and to be part of this discussion on a very, very topical subject. As you know that under the broad framework of our Prime Minister's Atmanirbhar Bharat, India has initiated special focus on 24 subsectors, which the government believes can become truly self-reliant by strengthening domestic manufacturing, increase employment, and provide far greater exports than what they are doing today. And one of the sectors that has been identified is the fisheries sector. Our Honorable Minister Piyush Goyal, who is the Minister of Commerce, Industry, Textile, Consumer Affairs, Food and Distribution, Government of India, then constituted a 9-member committee, what it was called as the Steering Committee for Advancing Local Value Add and Employability, and got the name of SCALE. And SCALE in that sense makes a lot of sense, because what we really need to do is scale our industrial prowess to become an important part of the global supply chain. So this was done, and Dr. Pawan Goenka, the chairman of Indian's National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, what we call INSPARKS, and the formal managing director and CEO of Mahindra, was appointed the chairman of the committee. The committee has been working very closely with all the industry associations and industry leaders from the identified subsectors to look into various aspects of what this committee can do, recommend, and work on to strengthen the prowess of these 24 sectors. It has been my privilege to be part of the SCALE committee from the very beginning. And Pawan, thank you very much that you are here with us today online to participate in the launch of this report. As we said, that fisheries and aquaculture has been one of the important identified sectors. And as we looked at it in the SCALE committee, we realized that this sector has tremendous value creation, and more than value creation, employment generation. The sector contributes today 1.2% of the gross value add and 7.3% to the agriculture gross value add. The focus of the government on infrastructure to support fisheries and aquaculture will further help this segment to grow. As per the Champion Sector Initiative, it is our belief that the current size of this industry and its exports of about $14 billion can go up to $28 billion by 2027. And we can definitely double it in the next 5 years. And it's very, very heartening to see the growing numbers as it happens. The SCALE committee identified shrimps, tuna, and tilapia as high value add species to leverage our entry into the global markets. Adequate investments, technology transfer, capacity building, and policy interventions, regulatory changes, and all that is required has been identified to achieve the set target. The key focus is on bringing value addition opportunities to meet our export targets, ease of doing aqua farming, utilization, far greater utilization of brackish water and lands, and other suitable water bodies which are dotted throughout our mighty India. So with that, we are working and attracting, and we are working to see how we can attract large-scale upstream and downstream capacity building investments and developing domestic species and end-to-end traceability for assured food safety, which is now a very significant factor. And this is what the scale committee is involved itself in. We have been working very closely with our Secretary Fisheries, Jitenji Swain, and who has been very supportive and very helpful to us in discussing all the constraints and challenges raised by the industry like our aquaculture farm registration processes, setting up of nucleus breeding centers, brood stock multiplication centers, zoning for aquaculture, and integrated cold chains across the supply chain. Thank you, sir, for your warm and productive discussions we have been having with you in your office. Tremendous development strides have taken place in the fisheries sectors in the last few years. The implementation of the Blue Revolution scheme and the specialized Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana has brought stupendous changes in the lives of fisheries and significant economic development and growth to the overall fisheries sector. As part of SCALE's work to advance the growth of the tilapia industry in India, World Fish and CII have collaboratively developed a report on the business case for scaling tilapia production in India. It's a great initiative by CII and World Fish, and I especially appreciate the efforts of my colleague Arvind, who has put in tremendous efforts in putting this report together. As has been stated, this report makes an excellent business case for investing in the production and value addition of tilapia fish, and would be of great help to potential entrepreneurs in this sector. In terms of total capital expenditure and financial support required to build the hatchery and grow out assets from 2023 to 2032, in the about 9-10 years period, we estimate will be rupees 5,557 crores and 2,587 crores respectively, hatchery and grow out assets. By the end of 26-27, the total capital expenditure and financial support required is rupees 1,975 crores and 922 crores respectively. During the block financial year, the total capital expenditure and financial support required is 1,425 crores and rupees 666 crores. Between 2029 and 32, the financial years, the total capex and financial support, when I total it, comes to 5,127 crores and 999 crores respectively. This, in dollar terms, is around 375 million. And I do believe this is a small money in the context of what it can achieve by way of the tremendous fillip and growth it can provide to this subject, to tilapia production and the fisheries business. We seek the support of your fisheries department for the financials requirement and attracting investment and flow of investments in this sector. I've learned that the development of genetically modified, genetically improved farmed tilapia gift. Incidentally, we have a gift center in Ahmedabad, but that is increasing and creating genetically improved financial services. But the gift in the context of what we are talking today, through traditional selective breeding technique to improve commercially imported trials by World Fish and Partners is a major milestone in the history of not only tilapia aquaculture, but also the aquaculture of tropical fish as a whole. And I think, John, you explained that very well, that how you are migrating from cold water to warm water. And I think this is the key input for technology for helping us to manage our food requirements as we grow in the globe. Timely intervention by the Government of India in terms of creating awareness of the benefits of farming and consuming tilapia, along with appropriate policy changes and financial incentives to farmers and entrepreneurs, would undoubtedly accelerate the growth of tilapia production in India, leading to increased domestic consumption and overseas exports. In addition, of course, which, as I said, is the most important part, employment generation for the local people. Some of the factors to increase production are obviously the requirement of quality seeds, quality feed, building awareness and knowledge of the species among farmers and consumers, as well as enhanced accessibility to markets. And I'm pleased to say that many parts of this are being addressed both by the Scale Committee as well as by the department under the able leadership of our Secretary. It is anticipated by 2025, the volume of farmed tilapia will ensure a sustainable and steady supply of products, which in turn will bring investments into processing and manufacturing value-added products for domestic and international markets. Our production is established, and once production is established and scaled, tilapia has a potential to become part of India's export basket and could contribute to India's export target of $14 billion of fish and aquaculture products by 2027, and double of that, that is $28 billion by 2032. I'm privileged to be part of this dialogue on scaling tilapia production in India and look forward to hearing from all the experts today. Together, we can create a roadmap to take Indian aquaculture sector on a higher growth path. And once again, my thanks to you, Jitenji, and your department for the excellent support in this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Dr. M. Vijay Gupta, World Food Prize Laureate and Sunhak Peace Prize Laureate, to kindly deliver his special address. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Shri Jitendra Swain, Secretary, Department of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy. Dr. John Benji, my colleague in genetics research. Sri Salil Singhal, Sri Arabindas, Mrs. Kakat, and all those who are participating in this dialogue. Good afternoon. Unfortunately, I could not be present with all of you because of my other commitments. At least I could take time to be with you through this Zoom meeting. Now, this takes me back to in my memory to 1970s, when I started working with the different UN agencies in different countries. When I found tilapia is a species that can provide nutrition and also livelihood for most of the rural population, which are malnourished. And when I introduced tilapia into aquaculture, I was criticized by my colleagues and also the governments. When we have native species like carps, why are you promoting tilapia? Because at that time, there was no market for export, but tilapia was considered as a poor man's fish. I said that is exactly the reason that we are promoting tilapia, because it's the poor, untrodden one who needs more nutrition. And this is a species which can be grown easily with low inputs, like an agriculture byproduct. It can be grown in turbid waters, can be grown in small ponds which retain water only for 3 to 4 months. Even then, we can take a crop. And at the same time, it can be grown in intensive systems like cages, recirculating systems, and biofloc systems, and things like that. And in fact, I remember, sir, I was working for 10 years as an advisor to the government of Bangladesh on behalf of the FAO and subsequently with the World Fish. When I introduced tilapia into rural aquaculture in Bangladesh in late 80s, the government said, Gupta, why are you promoting tilapia when we have the carp? We should be focusing all your effort on promoting carp rather than tilapia. I said, sir, we are not replacing carp with tilapia because tilapia has a different niche where we cannot grow the carps. We can always use the tilapia, and that proved because we focused on there are about 800,000 small seasonal bodies of water in Bangladesh at that time, and nothing was coming out of that, covered with water hyacinth. That's where we introduced this tilapia, and along with other local species, and it was booming like that. We were able to show a production of 2 to 3 tons in 3 to 4 months' time. And that has increased the incomes of the rural poor, increased the nutrition of the rural poor, and of all the things that has happened because we were involved with women, because it doesn't require much of an effort to grow tilapia into their backyard pond, and women were involved in this. And at one stage, that has led to the empowerment of the women in the rural areas. So it has a multifaceted benefits of growing tilapia. But unfortunately, we in India could not take a decision for a very long time. I remember way back in late 1990s and early 2000, there have been a large number of committees appointed by ICR and then Government of India, whether tilapia should be allowed to be farmed in India or not. But though so many committees as there, actually the decision could not be taken for a long time. So when I retired and came here and I was associated with the National Fisheries Development Board, I was talking to Dr. Krishna Garu, who was the chief executive at that time. I said, it is high time we take a decision. Either we allow tilapia farming or completely ban it. We cannot just leave it like that. And same case was with the pangasius also, which was not officially allowed by the government of India, but already 500,000 tons of fish was being produced. So, and I was very glad during the efforts of the National Fisheries Development Board, the government of India has allowed the farming of tilapia with certain restrictions which are very much necessary. So as John Benji has said, this is a species that will be cultured with low input systems and also with a high input system. The benefits I look from this is, as the other people have said that one, not only increasing fish production, but also creating livelihoods in the rural areas and also increasing the nutrition. Then again, going back to the history, why the government of India was hesitating to allow the farming of tilapia. This goes back to 1950s and 1960s, when another species of tilapia was introduced into the country, the Mozambique species, which grows slow and breeds prolifically, and in fact has become like a pest in most of the water bodies it has accreted. So for that reason, actually, government of India was not willing to take a decision on introducing, allowing the farming of tilapia. But by assessing subsequently the role Nile tilapia, now the gift strain that we have been talking about, can increase the fish production. So I am very glad that now the scale program has come and with the possibility of increasing production. So it has both the domestic, improving the domestic production, domestic consumption, improving the nutrition of the low-income groups, and also has a role to play in export markets. So my suggestion will be that first we concentrate on increasing the domestic consumption. As the report says, some states there is some demand for tilapia, but in other states there is not demand for tilapia because they are not fully aware of the taste and the value of tilapia. For example, Andhra Pradesh, which is the largest producer of aquaculture, still farmers are hesitant because not that it's not a good fish, because there is not much of a market. So I think the effort first should be bringing awareness, not only in producer, but also consumers, the benefit of eating tilapia, which will be much cheaper as compared to the carp that we are producing in a large scale quantities. The next advantage of tilapia is now people are looking forward to buying and eating a live fish. And tilapia is a species which is easy to transport in live condition and also sold in the market. The second, we were also looking at talking about diversification of fish aquaculture species in India for a very, very long time. Now, when we look at the cage culture and other species for exportable freshwater fish I'm talking about, there are no other indigenous fishes that can be filleted and exported. We have been now talking about pangasius, And now the second is a tilapia, which with little or no intermuscular bones and also amenable to filleting. So this is a species that can be grown both from the domestic consumption and also for export-oriented market. So as I said, first we have to create awareness and grow a demand for tilapia. And once we do that one, I think we should be able to mentor, train, and provide all technical assistance to the small-scale farmer to start with, for which we need to ensure easy availability of good quality tilapia. This is another important trait that is required, because all tilapias are not fast-growing tilapias, because hybrids are being used, misused, and all that. So we need to establish certified hatcheries which can provide the good quality seed to the farmers. Otherwise, again, if it's not that done, then farmers will be duped with the Mozambique tilapia and there will be descendants. So we need to develop certified hatcheries, regional hatcheries, and also local hatcheries, so that the seed will be available easily to the market. And also we have to provide, talking about the financial assistance to the small-scale farmer. I understand under the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, there are funds are available through the National Fishery Development Board. I think the farmers and entrepreneurs can avail this probably through the funding, and our Honorable Secretary Sir will be able to tell more on that one. So when we come to export market, I see some of the challenges that we need to address. One is producing in quantities that can be taken up by the processing plants and for export. Two, ensuring the quality that is needed for export. And third and important is the cost of production. There are well-established exporting countries. So if India has to export, it has to compete with these well-established exporting countries, in which some of the countries, their labor is very cheap. So our production cost should be able to compete with other production costs in those countries. Then only we'll be able to export the fish. So these are my few suggestions that the committee can consider. And again, I thank you very much for inviting me to this dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. We now present a short film on tilapia. We hope you all find it informative.
Tilapia is the third most important group of farm fish in the world after carps and catfish. It is grown in more than 145 countries including India. It is a climate-resilient species which can be farmed in a wide range of water environments with low production and startup costs. Being an affordable yet decent source of protein, fatty acids and micronutrients, it is ideally placed to mitigate hunger and malnutrition. In the last 10 years, global tilapia production has increased from 3.5 million metric tons to 9 million metric tons, with a present value of global tilapia market of about $12.3 billion. Even though India is the third largest fish producing country, tilapia production is in nascent stage with less than 1 lakh ton of tilapia produced per annum. In order for India to rapidly increase fish production and double its fish exports over the next 5 years, species diversification and value addition has been promoted by the government through Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Realizing its potential and suitability for domestic production, consumption and rising global demands, the Government of India's Scale Committee has identified tilapia as the best bet species. To facilitate its accelerated production, the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Government of India has brought favorable policy guidelines for responsible farming of tilapia in India and generous financial assistance to farmers and hatchery operators under PMMSY. The target annual production of tilapia over the next 5 years has been set to 7.5 lakh metric tons, and over the next 10 years by 2032, 22 lakh metric tons, valued at rupees 32,000 crore, is said to be harvested in India. Over 80% of the farm tilapia is targeted for value addition and exports. The anticipated revenue potential from its export by 2027 is $1.1 billion and by 2032 is $4 billion. To achieve this aspirational target, 1,000 tilapia hatcheries have been planned to be established across the country. Simultaneously, tilapia grow-out production will be promoted in tanks, reservoir cages and biofloc units. and fish farmers be encouraged to buy fast-growing and disease-resistant strains of tilapia that are available from government-approved hatcheries. Genetically improved farm tilapia, also known as gift tilapia, developed by WorldFish and locally promoted by MPEDA RGCA, is a major strain available to Indian farmers. Aquaculture has an increasingly significant role to play in the global food systems as a source of livelihood and human nutrition, and tilapia has the ability to contribute at a larger scale. With the backing of the government, tilapia will further strengthen the Blue Revolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the launch of the Tilapia Scaling Strategy Report, jointly prepared by CII and WorldFish. May I request all dignitaries on the dais to kindly release the report. May I now request our guest of honor, Mr. Jatindranath Swain, Secretary, Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Government of India, to kindly address the gathering.
Mr. Salil Singhal, Member Scale Committee and Chairman Emeritus PI Industries, Sri Arvind Das, Chairman CI Task Force on Fisheries and Aquaculture, Dr. John Benji, Lead Genetic Group, WorldFish, Dr. Gupta, who have joined us over the VC and shared very useful and illuminating thoughts about tilapia production. Mrs. Jane Karkada and all the dignitaries who have come here, entrepreneurs, officers of the department, thinkers, participants, stakeholders in the aquaculture industries. A very good afternoon to all of you. I am very happy that CII and the Scale Committee has organized this workshop and a dialogue on scaling tilapia production in India. Normally, CII gets into the industries, big industries, and fish is something that remains under the radar, under the water, literally. So I am very happy that they have taken this initiative as part of Scale Committee. Mr. Singhal has already told what Scale Committee is supposed to be. It is supposed to be scaling up the exports, including what all can be exported from this country. And the targets for the Department of Fisheries is quite huge as far as the fisheries export is concerned. As in today, our exports primarily is centered around shrimp, that too mostly L1ME, and some part of marine fish. The exports of inland fish, of freshwater fish, is very, very minuscule percentage of that basket. And we have been told to double the exports in 3-4 years, which is a onerous task unless we started diversifying our export basket, and probably tilapia appears to be one of the best measures. Last year in exports we grew by 30%, but that is I would say rather fortuitous rather than it's a one-off factor because of COVID, the meat inflow into US stopped. So all the godowns which were having the Indian streams, they opened the cold storages, and that led to a increase both in volume and value because the prices were up. We will not be seeing probably the similar thing up again. So we have to do something different, and this probably will be handy. Coming back to the subject, scaling of tilapia production in India, I think Dr. Gupta struck the right notes, and I fully agree with him that this is one fish which is very popularly in our department, they say it's the chicken of the fish. So, easily growable, can be done both in extensive or intensive manner, can be grown with low input system, high input system, intensified system. So it's a very, very adaptable kind of a species which can be grown. And he said that we must do something about increasing the domestic demand for tilapia. I fully agree with him, and we are working on it. Apart from positioning tilapia as one of the species that can be exported and to diversify our export basket, because this is something that is scaled up faster compared to other species, we will be working on the increasing of the domestic demand. And why has not the domestic demand gone up in the fish? This is a very historical kind of a factor. In India, the fish consumption has been, why in India, all over the world, fish consumption has been determined, our preferences for eating fish has been determined by the availability of fish, because fish is a highly perishable product. So in India, if you just map where all people eat fish, it will be all in the riverine areas or in the coastal areas. Because within maybe about 20 kilometer, 30 kilometer beyond this, the places where the fish is generally produced or naturally available, you will not find people eating much fish. And that is probably also one reason why in India there is, all over the world also, there is a tendency, let's eat it fresh. Because we are not sure what kind of fish we'll get once it is iced and brought in. So, but yes, with advances in preservation technology, refrigeration technology, now fish can be moved anywhere. 80% of the world's trade in fish is frozen. Somehow, frozen is something that is yet to take up in this country, partly because of this perception, and partly because this kind of chains are not been created. Like Amul created the chain for milk marketing. They pay, let us say, the producers about 30 rupees, and the end product is sold at 55 rupees. So that's about 25 rupees per kg per liter they spend on collection, chilling, processing, including the retailers market. This is something that can be done. If this can be done, this will revolutionize the fish consumption. This is something that the thinkers here, entrepreneurs have to think how to do it. Cooperative is one model. There can be other models that can be thought of. Otherwise, if you see the market where frozen fish are available under various branded products, it's almost 4 times the producer's price. So, we have made shrimp in India a luxury commodity. It's selling at about 1,200, 1,300 rupees a kilo. Who will buy it? Definitely, I will not buy it. I will rather try to go to Chittaranjan Park and try to buy it at about 400 rupees, then try to descale it at home, or find somebody who can descale it for a small fee in the market, and that is how it is. So this is something we have to do on a large scale. The department is already taking some steps, and probably in 1 or 2 years we will get some kind of this supply chains. Amul very proudly says, NDDB and Amul, that they give around 75% of the consumer price to the producers. Very proudly, and this is worldwide, it is about 30 to 35%. Can do that. This is a challenge for all of us. Whoever is aggregating the fees, whoever is thinking, if we can do that, there will be a great boon, and it will also help our target of doubling the farmers' income, making farmers very happy. Otherwise, we will keep on seeing conflicts. Any entrepreneur goes to a particular reservoir, sets up cages, there will be always some people who will come and obstruct. We have seen that all around, whether it is deep sea, big fishing vessels, whether it is cages, whether in the reservoirs or in the marine, this is something we have to take care of. So this is something we have to see how much, what is the percentage of the consumer price the producer gets. This is one. In export market, we have to be extremely competitive. I fully agree with Dr. Gupta. We have to be extremely competitive, because this year we are seeing that there is some headwinds into the shrimp exports because of Ecuador, which has both the transport advantage into the US market as well as probably the feed advantage. That gets a lot of anchovies of the Peru coast, Chile coast. So these are some of the things we have to keep in mind. I am very happy that this tilapia production report, that the report has come, and we have resources under Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampad Yojana. The scheme is for 3 years. We will try to see that beyond the scheme period, we will continue to support this initiative. The most important part, I agree again with Dr. Gupta, is that we have to make good quality seeds available. That is something we have to do. Apart from giving the traditional way of giving a incentive or a central financial assistance or the governmental assistance to set up hatcheries, whether the industry can work out a model by which we can give the government can give, because this is a new area. We don't know whether the seeds that are produced, whether it's taken by market or not, right? That's the main thing why nobody is setting up hatcheries in tilapia. Otherwise, they set up in the shrimp, they set up in other kind of fish. So whether we can create under a PPP the hatcheries where government gives a buying support for 3 years and then withdraws. So that will, to a large extent, protect the investment made by the private sector. This is something we did it very successfully in the renewable energy sector. The model was very simple. I think most of you will knowing what are the model in renewable energy, but at the cost of, since I was associated it for 3 years, with it for 3 years, I'll repeat it once again. So the Solar Energy Corporation became the aggregator. He says, bhai, you set up your solar or renewable energy plants wherever you like. All clearances you get. You sell me the power, I will sell it to the DISCOMs. In India, getting money out of DISCOMs is extremely difficult business. So, because most of them are in red. So we said that we take the guarantee for your payments. You please set up and give me within the contracted period. If you don't give me in the contracted period, I will levy some penalties. And I take a bank guarantee. And that helped us to scale up from about 10,000 megawatt, about 3,000 megawatt. When I joined Solar Energy Corporation, it was about 3,000 megawatt. And in 3 years, we signed PPAs for 50,000 megawatts of solar and wind. That's the power of this kind of intervention. And compared to energy, where the investment is very huge, even 100 megawatts is 500 crores. The investments, at least in the hatchery sector, I don't see that much. I think we can very well afford that kind of a support for 3 years, and seed anyway is about 5 to 7% of the entire aquaculture output. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just talking out of hunches. So it is possible to do that. That is one. The second important part is to develop appropriate feed. Feed constitutes 60% of the cost of the aquaculture, 50 to 60% depending on the species. And unless we make feed affordable, agile, like if there is a market disturbance because of the Ukraine war, the feed prices went up, there was a huge crisis both in poultry and the aquaculture industry because fish the feed prices went up, and it created a lot of disturbances. At that point of time, we did, though it was against the stated policy of the country, but we did allow GM soya, crushed soya, soya powder, soya flour into the country, so that at least the prices are kept down to a certain extent. Recently, we have also regulated the export of broken rice, because we realized that some of the broken rice goes into the feed industry, both in dairy and poultry, and probably into the aquaculture, fish feed also. So this is something, continuous innovations needs to be done to ensure that feed remains affordable, because the end price nobody can regulate. There cannot be any MSP for fish, very difficult, because it's a perishable commodity, difficult to store them. So to make it sustainable for the growers, we have to ensure that the feed is kept within certain parameters or certain limits, so that the culture becomes profitable. I do understand that tilapia is one species which somehow relaxes this constraint. If you talk about linear programming or the optimization, constraint optimization, there are certain parameters which relaxes the constraint. Tilapia is one, because I'm told it can eat anything. So unlike certain types which are very, very choosy about what they eat, and you don't have that much of a latitude, but here a lot of latitudes are available. I request our feed companies and researchers to do a lot of work on how to do, even region-wise, we can think whatever the materials are available, those can be utilized instead of transporting over long distance, because it's a very large country. So if that can be done, then this tilapia will do a lot of wonders about this. The fourth point is, while doing a big program, scaling up, we have to keep the local population in mind. This is something. So this particular species gives us a lot of freedom. It can be done in the small ponds. It can be done in ponds which store water for 3 to 4 months. There's a large number of ponds in this country are like that only. And they remain unutilized because we do not have any very focused approach to that. I think this tilapia action plan or this upscaling efforts will take care of such resources and give us a head-on advantage into this, head-on push into this, and will create an ecosystem which sees this fish to grow. And the last point, of course, is the nutritional requirement. I don't have to tell, there is enough lot of other ministries which keep talking about it, but yes, the end price appears to be in tilapia, at least the production, cost of production, which appears to be less than the pulses. So that's something that will probably spur the consumption and sort out a lot of issues in the nutritional aspects. And this also addresses one of our objectives in our scheme, that is improving the nutritional status through better animal protein. Animal means, of course, fish. So, at the end, I just want to reiterate that we do have resources to support. We assure to support the action plan as much as we can of this, and we'll continue to have the dialogue with the scale committee and CIA on this issue, and we have some kind of understanding. So we'll continue to support this, and we'll try to see that the growth of tilapia or upscaling of tilapia production is done as projected. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insightful address. As we bring this session to a close, may I request Ms. Jane Karkada, Senior Director CII, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks.
It is my pleasure to propose a vote of thanks to the distinguished speakers at the opening session of the dialogue today. Respected Secretary, Sir, Shri Jatindranath Swain, You have been championing the fisheries sector and leading us from the front. Your passion and commitment have catalyzed the fisheries story of India and greatly encouraged investors. Thank you, sir, for your supportive words of guidance. We assure you that we shall take forward the agenda for growth and development of the fisheries and aquaculture sector, and also outline the desired interventions needed for the scaling of tilapia in India by the facilitators, promoters, investors, and other stakeholders. Respected Dr. M. Vijay Gupta, sir, your promotion of aquaculture has contributed to the economic and social empowerment of men and women in Asia and around the globe. Your guidance and vision will be of great inspiration to us, and we will definitely take it forward as part of CII Fisheries and Aquaculture Task Force. Dr. John Benzie, thank you for your presence here today. Your research experience and knowledge will definitely guide us in our endeavor to scale tilapia production in India. We look forward to working with you and your team. I also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Pavan Goenka, Mr. Salil Singhal, and Mr. Arbindas for their vision and commitment for the development of the fisheries sector in India. We look forward to your continuous support to the fisheries champion sector initiatives. I particularly wish to thank all the esteemed officials from the Department of Fisheries and Mr. Debananda Banja, Additional Director of Fisheries Technical, Government of Odisha, as well as industry members from across the fisheries sector, media representatives, participants from various parts of the country, and others who have joined us to be part of this dialogue session. I also wish to thank the World Fish team joined here, as well as over the digital platform from various countries. On behalf of CII, I reiterate our commitment to work with the Department of Fisheries for the growth and development of the fishery and aquaculture sector in the country. With these words, we conclude the opening session. We will now have a panel discussion on potential of tilapia farming, processing, and markets in the next few minutes. We request you to be kindly seated.
We are now ready to begin our panel discussion on potential of tilapia farming, processing, and markets. The primary focus of increasing tilapia production is on increasing rural livelihoods and job opportunities, particularly for women and young people. Scaling tilapia production in India will help deliver simultaneous progress both domestically and internationally across several sustainable development goals. The panel today will deliberate on the potential and the key enablers needed for sustainable farming, processing, and export of tilapia. To moderate this very interesting panel discussion, may I invite on stage Mr. Arbind Das, Chairman CII Task Force on Fisheries, Aquaculture, and CMD NutriWiz Global Advisory Services Private Limited.
We request everyone to sit down. So may I now request Mr. Debananda Bhanja, Additional Director of Fisheries Technical, Fisheries and Animal Resource Development Department, Government of Orissa. Debanand, may I now invite Dr. John Benji, Lead Genetics Group, Acting Director of Aquatic Food Biosciences, World Fish, Malaysia. May I now invite Dr. P. Vijayanand, who will be joining us through VC, Senior Lead Soy Excellence Centers Global, U.S. Soybean Export Council, USA. May I now invite Dr. Nagamurali Chalamala Sethi, Managing Director, Volta Beams Limited, Ghana, Manspi Fisheries Private Limited, India. And lastly, but not Mr. Matthew Joseph, co-founder of Fresh to Home. Thank you. I must thank all my panelists and esteemed panelists, and from various, there are various value chain players, from genetics to market. And let me introduce each of them. Dr. Devanand Vanja, Additional Director of Fisheries Technical, Fisheries Animal Resource Development Department, Government of Odisha. He's a Bachelor in Food Fisheries Science, Master in Fisheries Science from Odisha OUAT, Bhubaneswar. Worked in Department of Fisheries since 1987 in different positions, recently working as Additional Director of Fisheries Technical, Government of Odisha. Worked as a fishery expert in a World Bank funded project, OCTMP, for 3 years, associated with World Fish for the last 6 years in developing schemes and programs for development of fisheries sectors of the state. And to my right, Dr. John Benji. He leads the genetic group of World Fish. He has more than 25 years of research experience in government, university, private sector worldwide, applying genetics to natural resource management and aquaculture. He has led programs in aquaculture and marine biotechnology for Australian government agencies, the University of New South Wales, and a multinational shrimp breeding company. He is also currently Professor of Marine Molecular Biodiversity at University College Cork, Ireland, and an editor of the journal Aquaculture. Dr. P. Vijay Anand, who is joining us through VC, Senior Lead Soy Excellence Centers Global, US Soybean Export Council USA, has 25 years of professional exposure to aquaculture, industry development of India, and other 9 years of professional fisheries and aquaculture education and research work, currently heading a global program for developing emerging markets in US Soybean Export Council, and an authority on aquaculture and tilapia. So you'll hear a lot of insights from him. Dr. Naga Murali, so fondly called Naga. I take that pleasure to call you Naga. Managing Director, born in family in aquaculture as family occupation. From childhood to Dr. Naga has been extensively involved in fish and shrimp farming. He has exposure to tiger shrimps, Vanamai, Tilapia, IMC, Pangasius, African catfish species, hatchery and grow-out techniques. Dr. Murali has wide experience and knowledge in project planning, site survey, construction design, DPR, construction supervision, etc. Setting up hatchery, grow-out ponds, cages, RA system, water quality, microanalysis, post-harvest technology, and an entrepreneur, 360-degree entrepreneur. Now starting from the species to the market, and all done by himself, and not in India, but outside the country, in Africa. And is expanding his presence in multiple African countries. Dr. Matthew Joseph, co-founder of Fresh to Home, my friend. Matthew Joseph is an accomplished businessman and co-founder of Fresh to Home. Everyone we might be knowing and using the platform as a creative. I certainly use the platform. So as a creative externally and hardworking ardent professional with over 32 years of experience in seafood industry, he came up with a novel concept of seed to home, and it has grown to be one of the world's largest seafood companies with 650 billion turnover. A member of the World Economic Forum, and his business venture has won several awards, including the Economic Times Award for Best Brands in the World. Welcome, sir. So thank you so much for joining me on the panel, and let's kickstart the discussion. And the format will be, I will be posing some of the questions that when I was doing a research and with the entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, the farmers, and the industry personnel, they have talked about some of these questions. So I will turn to Dr. Benji first. So, Dr. Benji, you are on the right, so I will come to you first. So, genetic programs that can help India to sustain the global competitiveness for next 10 to 15 years, because India is stepping into that shoes now. And especially you have to look at how the other countries are, what the other countries are doing, and in that respect, what is your views and what is your insights, if you can let us know.
So, yes. So I think your question is a general one about the utility of selectively bred, genetically improved, but through selective breeding, strains within aquaculture. And the importance of those are a greater efficiency in the use of resources, principally in terms of feed. You heard earlier today that feed costs are something like 60 to 70% of the costs of an aquaculture operation. And it's important that the fish utilize feed efficiently. And very often in genetically improved fish, that efficiency is there. It's accompanied by very often, or rather the efficiency is accompanied by the improvement in growth rate, because usually in fish the focus is in improving growth rate first and foremost. And as I said earlier today, in agriculture, most of the tremendous efficiencies in agriculture, both in plants and in animals, has been achieved through selective breeding. But the penetration in agriculture has been immense, something like 80 or 90%, whereas in aquaculture it's still only about 15 or 20%. And some of the great successes in aquaculture in terms of global commodities, that is some of the marine shrimp, Vaname, Monodon, salmon, and tilapia, have been because there are genetically improved strains available. One of the challenges is to be able to get these improved strains into production systems effectively. And there's a wide range of issues in that for tilapia. So in many countries in the world fish operates in something like 25 to 30 countries worldwide. We've introduced gift tilapia to more than 20. And the gift tilapia itself has then been used for developing other programs. But coming back to your central question, the issue is one of, firstly, faster and improved growth. And the importance of that is twofold. It gives the farmer the choice of whether to grow the fish for less time and get a fish of the same size, or to grow the fish for the normal length of time and get a bigger fish. So it improves the choice and flexibility available to the farmer. Through that, and we've done more work in World Fish since GIFT was first released many years ago. We've got another 15 years of genetic improvement. And in the last 3 years, we've been working very closely on 3 new resilience traits. Because as the world changes, and as climate change has a tremendous effect on farming systems, including aquaculture, it's going to be important that we have an already hardy fish in tilapia, but to make it even more resilient and change adapted to being able to cope with warmer waters, to be able to continue to produce in stressed environments and in the face of disease. I can talk more about that later if there's interest. But I think the key thing is improved adaptability, improved efficiency of operation, and greater choice for farmers.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Benji. So you heard that, setting the things out, how tilapia is been visualized in India and at this stage. Now from there, I'm going to move into ask Dr. Devananda Vanja to present a case study. With this belief, we started this journey 2 years back. Then Orissa came in, and to take you through a case study of Odisha tilapia farming, production through cage culture. And you will see my visit to Odisha and seeing the things, the first thing is that is the farmers benefiting? And is bring rural economy, rural India connecting to the economic growth of India. What is that umbilical cord that connects? And here is the species that connects. That also addresses the rural India, not rural India, the rural mothers' concern of nutrition. And you know what is the status of nutritional security of India, where we stand on the global map. So biggest challenge is rural India, the rural mother. Okay. Can this entire initiative add that, find that solutions, and also create an opportunity for income for the rural women and make them more independent, and the gender diversity and everything comes into a sector. Thank you. With that, I would now request Dr. Devananda Banja to take you through a case study that Orissa has made it possible in very short time with the help of old fish.
Good afternoon. I am Devananda Bhanja, Additional Director Fishery, Government of Odisha. A respected panelist, and my special thanks to Mr. Arvind Das, Chairman CIA, Task Force for Fisheries and Aquaculture, for keeping me as a panelist in this big forum. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I will go through a small presentation and thereafter we will have some discussion in course of this session. So, Government of Odisha Fisheries Department have rolled out one policy in 2015 where species diversification was focused. And initially we are thinking for only the IMC, Indian Major Carp, but later on in 2016 Government of Odisha made a MOA with Wildfish for technical collaboration. So that is the key point, because we, the government Department of Fisheries, we do in a monotonous way. So we have to be partner with some technical international organization to see what is happening around the globe and what we can adopt at our stage. So we took that opportunity to be with Wildfish as a technical partner, and we have started promoting tilapia from 2016 because of its fast growth, hardy, and the most prominent point is that the single bone, because it don't have any intermuscular bone or spines, and it is also affordable, very low cost. So then the Government of India has introduced one policy, and that we are following meticulously. The biosecurity has to be maintained, and we have to see that water should not pass away from the tank. So we are following that meticulously, and the licensing approval for the farms and for hatcheries also, private hatcheries at district level and directorate level, we are following, and only for the monosex tilapia, that is gift tilapia. So initially we brought this from the, we are bringing the mother fish from the RGCA, Empeda RGCA center in Andhra Pradesh, and we are culturing, and a state-of-art gift tilapia hatchery we have established in capital Bhubaneswar in our government fish farm. And this is some photographs. It is of 50 lakh, means by million capacity of monosex fry per annum at present, and Government of Odisha has also signed a MOU with RGC Empeda to start one bigger hatchery near the Hirakud reservoir where cage culture is being promoted. That is from 10 million fry capacity, and 4 private hatcheries we are also establishing, because if we want to scale up the tilapia production, then we have to think for first establishing hatchery. Without hatchery, without that monosex tilapia, we cannot think. And hatchery, it is again every alternate year we have to bring the brood fish from the RGCA, because in every 2 years you have to change the brood stock. We cannot continue with the same stock for years together. And for hatchery also we are promoting with our state fund, so that initially we will start and later on we will see how it goes. In 2014-15 also, RGCA have started some demonstrations in Odisha, and we found a great success, and the production was 6 ton per acre in 6 months, means 12 ton, up to 12 tons per annum from 1 acre. We can very easily compare, say for IMC, Indian Major Carp. In Indian Major Carp, we are getting maximum up to 10 ton per hectare. But here, it is 30 ton, because 12 ton per acre means 30 ton per hectare. So it is 3 times more. Let us see what is the profit. From 1 kg of fish, roughly a person, a farmer can earn in IMC 30 to 40 rupees profit, after taking the seed cost, feed cost, labor, everything. But in case of tilapia, he has to sell by 90 rupees or 100 rupees. Again he will earn a profit of 20 rupees. Though is 20 rupees, nobody is interested. But you take the production level, it is 10 ton per hectare and it is 30 ton per hectare. So 3 times. So 20 rupees per kg into 3 times, it is 60 rupees. It is more than the IMC profit. So only thing is, we have to think in a logical way. We have to provide good quality seed. Again, the most important, that is the value addition is highly essential. Because tilapia is such a fish in Indian cooking style, homemade cook, it is not so good in taste, because it is flat in taste. It don't have any taste. So as you add the spices, the taste changes, like broiler. Why people prefer broiler? Because it does not have its own taste. And so different curry is prepared with different menus. So tilapia is a very, I think it is the proper fish, even pangasius also, but pangasius has little fishy smell, but tilapia is having no such smell. So tilapia is a better option for that. It can be promoted, it can be cultured in the biofloc. Government of India under Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, government is promoting this RAS and biofloc, and this tilapia can grow very well in biofloc. It is tested in Odisha. And the it is at least 400 kg of fish can be harvested in 6 months in a 4 meter dia biofloc tank. Now coming to the cage culture. Again, in the year 2020, Government of Odisha started one investor-friendly cage culture policy in Odisha. So when we are thinking of cage culture, then government has to promote some certain policy, how to lease out the surface water area to an entrepreneur or a farmer. Then only he can put his cage. And at that time only Government of India under PMA, Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana can provide some assistance. So our state has made a investor friendly policy. We are leasing out 600 square meter surface area of the water body, and one can put 20 rectangular cages of 6 into 4 into 4 meter or 3 circular cages of 16 meter dia with 5 meter depth. And here the production in the circular cage is better than the rectangular cage, because we are getting in that area 1000 cubic meter we are getting for culture of fish, whereas it is less than that. Exactly, it is around how much? 100 each. Yes, it is 1800 cubic meter in 18 cages, but here in 3 circular cages it is 3000 cubic meter. So we are getting more, and 30 ton of fish already we have harvested. Pangasius and tilapia has been harvested, 30 ton, 28 ton, 30 ton in one crop from Hirakud reservoir. So this is the entrepreneurs are very much interested. Only thing is government, that what our honorable Secretary Sir, Government of India has told, we have to find out the way how to reduce the cost of the feed, and we have to supply good quality of seed, and third one, we have to provide some assistance how to make this viable and the value addition of the fish, fillet or slice, anything. So market size is always, it is the preference what we have studied in Odisha. It is above 500 gram or around 500 gram, it is preferable. And in culture tanks, it took around 6 months to grow. From in case it is from 50 gram to 500 gram, it took about 5.5 months. So we take it as a 6 months. Initially the farm gate price is low, but I have already discussed on this. And with the help of this wild fish also in Odisha, we have made zonation. This is one picture of the Hirakud reservoir, 31 zones, and each zone is having 20 subzone, and each subzone is 600 meter square area. So now only we have started in 110 entrepreneurs, they have made MOU for cage culture in Hirakud. We are hoping that in future many more will come and they will start cage culture in Odisha. So these are the initial remarks from my side. So later on we will discuss as per your requirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Devanand Manju. That's a wonderful live experience from the scratch and bit by bit, and supportive policy at the state level to build infrastructure. That's the first thing, they got it correct. And now today in all other animal farming, we are talking about donation to protect our export market share, everything. But Odisha state started with donation. Well, that creates a lot of challenges as you move ahead. So that's a big thing. And the other thing you might have heard that is started with, that we sometimes feel that we know everything, but the best practices are getting developed every now and then. So technical supports on best practices, not only on like how do you farm, but designs, the hatchery design, I think they have got one of the best glass hatchery in Orissa, with a world-class design and technology. So that's the thing, you get everything started on the good footing. Like, there's nothing called like, I'll put in money and start experimenting and learn things and correct things, then you'll be out of the market. Then you'll suddenly say that, okay, there's nothing, I've lost a lot of money in this. So now the best thing is the right foot forward, right technology support, along the policy support from the government, and best practices has to be put in place. And then as you go ahead and see, the gift tilapia already is in India. So Dr. Benji was talking about, and so that species is there, which is genetically modified to take care of a lot of other disease challenges. Now, going from there, let me go back to Dr. Benji again. Then I'm going to ask, I'll bring in Dr. Murali into this. So now you look at the tilapia market, what happens that any product that you do, the first consumer reaction is that the food is that I have to like the color and the flavor. That's all about. The first experience is that. And that's true. I believe that's true in tilapia also. And also the other part, you look at the whole cost factor, which is going to decide the buying price and the market. And only time you think, am I ready to put that money to buy that product? It delivers that value that I'm spending. Plus the competition that is going to come in the global market, or interspecies competition like carp versus tilapia, pangasius versus tilapia is going to happen. So in that context, I'm going to ask Dr. Benji, to bring in Dr. Benji here, that as you see a journey of 10 to 15 years, that's what I'm telling you. You don't set up, put money in the business in not just 1, 2 years, not 10, 15 years, or 20 years. Is there enough research is happening around the traits, which is going to define the traits that consumer will first perception, that color and flavor and taste, and with how that is being addressed, and that can help India to address that in global market and domestic market. And second thing, how our farmers will remain competitive in the world market through this business initiatives or the entrepreneurs that are coming in. So there are the two contexts. So there is a continuous challenge of cost, and there is a continuous challenge of consumer sticking to your product because he gets the right flavor, color, and taste and everything. So, and that I would now have your views on this and what's happening around this trade side.
All right, so I think there were about at least 4 questions in that one general question, thank you. So I think the first thing really about competitiveness is that it's a global market. And that means that the operations that will be carried out in India need to be able to compete with that global market. And I think here I'm going to come back to your point about management process. It's not just having a good strain, it's about having the right management of the animals, the right feeds. Put it all together and you can have a profitable operation. And you also need to think about your operation. And any farmer has to think about just how his farm operates, his or her farm operates. Because it can vary, of course. And all of you know good farmers who sometimes seem to be able to get something out of a soil or a pond that nobody else gets anything out of. And there are farmers who can make it difficult to get something out of a very good circumstance. But the issue here is being able to get quality inputs of seed, feed, understand the nature of the business you're in and the market you're aiming for. And as I said before, an improved strain can provide a greater choice for the farmer in terms of how they operate. Now, Gift, when it was produced, I think after about 4 or 5 generations, there was a huge growth increase. And certainly in tests that we're doing now, it grows something like 80 to 100% better than unimproved strains of tilapia. I mean, that's a huge difference. It's almost a doubling. And so coming back to it, I think it's the key issue of accessing the right technical support so that you've got the latest in best management practice. And this also comes back to the activities, again, for any business. It's the maintenance of quality control right through your operation and ultimately with the people that buy your product and the maintenance of quality control throughout the value chain. I think these are critical issues. Coming back to traits and does this fish meet the requirements of consumers? Well, markets can change and they can change quickly. So that's important to continue to monitor what traits people want in a given market because that can vary. But World Fish has, just in the last couple of years, carried out some work on fish trait preferences in carps and in tilapia. And the information we got recently was for Bangladesh. But the main thing we were checking was, are the traits that we're selecting for faster growth the things that farmers and consumers want? Now, farmers absolutely want faster growth, although it's interesting in that the way that's expressed can vary. So in parts of Bangladesh, they want a shorter growing cycle. In some information we had in India, they actually want a bigger fish. Now, thankfully, that's achieved. Both of those objectives can be achieved by selecting for a faster growing fish, which is what GIFT is. But as we move forward, and you were mentioning 10 to 15 years ahead, many of us, well, I think it would be difficult to know where things are going to be in 10 or 15 years' time, but genetics researchers and others have to think that far ahead. And if we look at climate change, there's going to be an increase in temperatures. That will result in a lower level of oxygen supply in the water.
I'll come to that question.
We come later. Okay, so we'll leave that to a later question. But in other words, we are working in World Fish on a range of further traits. The fish that is already here in India is faster growing. And we continue to provide technical support for the team at RGCA. They'll actually be visiting World Fish in December for another session of training in terms of the detailed genetic calculations to maintain the program. But there's other traits in process that we'll come to later. Thank you.
I'll come back to go to now Dr. Murali. So in your terms, like you've been in this business for quite some time, so what do you think of the consumer preference? I believe that what comes out of the pond has got a different color, and what comes out of the reservoir of clean water has got a different color. So that definitely there will be preference for both the things, looking at the demand and the local market. But suppose you look at US, Europe, those kind of developed market. In your view, what's generally the preference is given?
Thank you all for giving me this opportunity. Sir, like I've been producing tilapia in ponds, in cages, and in biofloc. As we say, the preference of fish changes from place to place. Like for us, usually they say when we grow tilapia in black clay, ponds, there is a chance of geosmin smell in that, which some people don't like it. But when it goes to Africa, that's their preference. They like that geosmin smell in that. So I've been producing tilapia in Ghana in cages, almost all in one project. I'm producing 4,000 tons of tilapia. And because of some problems, like theft problem, the first one, and then the disease problem, biosecurity issue, I have shifted from cages to ponds. And initially, when we started producing our tilapia and selling them, there was no buyer to buy our fish. Like literally they say, we like black tilapia. We don't want your tilapia, which comes from pond, is white. So it took time for us to convince the people. Like we did a lot of demonstration, explaining them. And slowly, today, my tilapia is branded as white man's white tilapia. I'm the white man and my tilapia is white. And 4 tons of tilapia is sold in half an hour in our markets. We don't sell on our farm. We sell only in our value chain. And 4 tons will be sold in half an hour. So that's the demand. Like, for everything I'll say, if I'm producing cages, I'll say my fish is grown in clean water, my fillet is extremely flavorless and extreme quality, premium quality, it's for Europe market, if I'm growing in cages. If I'm growing in ponds, I'll say this is on natural diet, enhanced nutrition, so this is good for you to eat. It's all marketing, it's all marketing. So how you produce better, how you sell it better, that's all.
And thank you, Dr. Murali. At least you become a white man now. So that's what I was coming to. It is not cookie cutter solutions. When we are taking this stride to produce for domestic market and export market, the more challenging export market, what is the consumer looking for? Color of the fish, color of the fillet, and flavor of the fillet. Some market needs something, some markets need it. So that's where we looked at it. India has got huge number of water bodies. Like, I visited, I think from 24th to 2nd of November, 5 villages in an area where the port is coming up in Orissa. Now villages are empty. The only old people are there. So I met one gentleman who is a doctor, came back to revive the village life. So when I went and traced out each village, each family in that village has got minimum 2 to 3 ponds. And all our weed and everything is grown. So I visited 5. Imagine those ponds, what can you do? And then from their pond, you got a different quality of fish in a particular market. So target comes from the market to where it is to grown. Is it in pond or in reservoir? So that decision is going to happen. So I'm saying that there's a lot of these dissection going to happen to focus on consumers and in that market. Now I'm going to go back to, I'm going to bring in again Dr. Vijay Anand and bring in Dr. Benji into this. So nice to see you, Dr. Vijay Anand, after a couple of months. And hi, so thank you for joining us. And I know that you are a busy schedule, so so we got you on the VC. So now I'm going back to the things that we in the business. At what price I'm buying and what price I'm selling. And so the entire supply chain cost is going to add up and how I'm going to competitive. Let's talk about moolah, the money. So I have been in the business in animal agriculture, and it's a constant fight. What is not under control is that soy and corn. It's a commodity. If that is going to decide your business fare, then we are gone. So that's where the challenges remains. And my friend Mr. Matthew is looking at me, so I have faced that in my 15 years of animal agriculture side business in India and outside. Now coming back to the point, is there enough research and innovations are happening to take care of the increasing cost of protein in animal feed and how this will shape the business in coming years? That is one. Second thing is that because we cannot keep increasing the delivered price to the consumer will stop eating. Okay, so there has to be research on what is happening and a background. Is there enough? Is there replacement coming in for soy protein to some extent? And there are countries that started doing that. So Dr. Vijay Anand and Dr. Benji focus on farm gate price, which is going to be based on the protein that we are putting in the feed and the starch that we are going to put in the feed, and how that cost will be controlled through the research and development, innovations and everything, and to give a lowest cost fish to the consumer and the lowest cost protein to the society. Over to you, both of you. First, Dr. Anand, Dr. Vijay Anand, you may go ahead, then Dr. Benji will come.
Am I audible, Arvind Das ji?
Yeah, yeah, very much audible. Please.
Okay, yeah, thank you, and good evening to all the dignitaries who are there present in the hall, and thank you for having me on this panel. Two questions raised by Arvind Das. One is there adequate research on alternative proteins? I think you aimed that question because we are protein people and deal with soybean utilization across the world. US being one of the largest producer of soy meals and supplies to different parts of the world. When it comes to India, I think we all know this scenario. It is a little sensitive to comment. However, the country has taken favorable decisions very recently, lifted up the gates on the imports of GM soy meal exclusively for the utilization in animal feed, not for human food. So, point number one is if that really happens and there are volumes coming in, the price of soybean meal would considerably be available at a reduced cost, in par with international costs. Let's take Bangladesh. We don't have to go very far. Let's take Bangladesh. Imports about 1.6 million tons from US alone. Of course, they import from Argentina and Brazil also. So, which all the soybean earlier went from India because of the proximity of exports. And then later on, it came back to the question that you raised, Arvind Jasdi, competitiveness on price. More than aquaculture, I think they use soybean meal in the broiler segment. Today, Indian broiler segment uses close to 5 million tons, 4 to 5 million tons, including the breeder operation. So that's a much higher demand than aquaculture. Shrimp and fish put together has still not crossed 1 million ton of soy meal utilization in the country, but it would definitely cross if in the first stage the price is made available in the country in par with any other country being able to access on rates with international standards. That's the first one. Second one is no. Everybody has heavily depended on corn and soy. They were so much dependent and assured that there would always be supply of this materials. Not adequate research has gone into alternative commodities. But since the last 3 or 4 years, because of this price increase, people started tapping doors. Even flies and insect meal is also being investigated, as all of us know from the literature. Now, for that to take, R&D is not just enough if we have a list of raw materials. R&D has 2 or 3 phases to it. Number one is the material fit enough? Does it have all the profiles, protein and amino acid and vitamin, mineral profiles to match a commodity that you're replacing? Second thing is, if you have an answer as yes, then you will have to demonstrate it on the species, be it tilapia or shrimp, or even broiler, poultry, which grows, today we are harvesting 2.5 kg in 35 days. And this is the function of genetics and nutrition, just 2 factors. The broiler that we eat is a function of genetics and nutrition. And if out of these 2 factors, it's so sensitive, we've spoken about 60% of the cost goes to our feed, performance, FCR. The farmer will not be able to accept anything that goes beyond 35 days of broiler production, or anything that goes beyond the 5 months to produce a 500-gram tilapia at 1.5 FCR. Now it's a set equation. Now this commodity that we are bringing into the system should not tamper with the equation. Then again, it's a function of price, farm gate price, everything gets. If it is able to meet that equation standard, that's return on investment. When I'm talking about 500 grams tilapia, 1.5 FCR in 5 months or 6 months, it's an equation that is very sensitive to the farmer and the price and the entire value chain thereof. If a processor is buying, it's going to affect everybody. So there isn't much research happening. And even if there is research happening, phase 2 is it has to be demonstrated to take this equation. And on the farm gate price, I would quickly mention that Today I'm paying 350 rupees, Indian rupees, which translates to about $4 per kilogram of filleted tilapia in a Hyderabad market. I'm paying the price. If you look at the dots in the world on price markers for tilapia, you will see that most of the dots are around $2, $2.5. I'm paying 4.5 in India, which is still not an exportable commodity. It comes from some farm, like Nagamurli has mentioned, the flavor. Some like the muddy flavor, some don't like the muddy flavor, right? So the price of the fish, I am paying $4, but there is something wrong if the world is paying $2.5 for filleted fish. Then India definitely is a good market for domestic production, even if you reduce the price to $3. So domestic consumption, we are a protein deficient, energy deficient country, and the low hanging fruit is India's 1.3 or 1.4 billion population. Take 50% of it, take 25% of it, because people who sell iPhones take only 5% of India's market share to sell iPhones in India. So that itself is a huge market. Export, I think somebody has already commented, India has to, on the price markers, it has to, price and quality markers, it has to catch up heavily to international standards. Today are the days when people are talking that my tilapia on my plate is sustainably sourced. So that's one of the rule. So there are very stringent rules on additives and color of the flesh and standards. So just like how shrimp is undergoing in India, all the export norms, if tilapia has to be exported, I don't see it any different. The same norms has to be implemented on. So my recommendation would be, the first step is catch the domestic market, learn the trick of the business, and then get into export market side by side. I don't say one after the other.
We'll come to the
Side by
market
side.
question separately. So let
Yeah.
me deal with this. Thank you for those
Over.
comments. Now, Dr. Benji. So, what are the kind of research is happening to address that? Because I come from dairy and poultry. This continuous. We were at 2 FCR, feed conversion ratio, and now I think it is 1.56 in 10 years' time. Okay, it's continuous improvement is happening because they have to bid the cost. Those things are happening. That is one question, that how much research is happening there. And second research, how much research is happening, because when there is a animal agriculture, disease is going to come in. When the intensification starts, then the disease comes in. So that is so these are the 2 things, and the feed conversion and the faster growth, that which Dr. Anand was talking about, that equation, how many days. And because the resource, his asset today in carp is going into, suppose getting in a 1 kg and 1.2 kg, if I'm correct, is around 12 months, around 12 months, right? And suppose you come back to think tilapia, if it gets a similar kind of, as Dr. Manja was talking about, money and turning around the asset to the pond or reservoir cage 2 times in a year. So here is the catch, because I worked with many farmers across the country. What happens is that, why he goes for poultry? Because every 30th day he gets money. When you put rice, wheat, anything, is 90 days to 130, and you depend on what calamity is going to come, what is going to. Here is assured, he's getting like, my money is turning around that. So he said like, okay, I'm going to put the species, and there's going to money come back after 14 months. Then what he's going to do? And after 14 months, he finds something has happened, then he's gone. So he looks at higher turnaround. So that is the question I'm asking, 3 questions. Feed conversion, research is happening, is going to keep the pace. And before that, I've asked about the protein. Now, what are the alternate proteins are coming in for the fish feed, and the faster growth rate, and disease resistance. 4. You have got to go now.
Oh, all right. So I agree with what has just been said about feeds, and I also agree in that there is plenty scope for more work on that. There's a great need for more work on that, especially in terms of alternative feeds. And it's not just the biochemical profile of a given feed. It's because you've got to look at what might also be provided, particular amino acids, because we've just done some work on gift, and we see that, for example, it utilizes lysine and I think methionine was the other one, differently to the unimproved strains, and that's not a surprise. You see that in chickens and other species. So the feed needs to be adjusted to that faster growth. And World Fish has a fish nutritionist. Until about 4 or 5 years ago, World Fish wasn't working on feeds, and we now have Dr. Rodrigue Yossa working on that. He's got a big grant now to work on alternative feeds in Africa. But short answer is there needs to be more work on alternative feeds, specifically for tilapia and specifically for gift, given what I've said about its particular nutrient requirements. And I think one can say generally for fish there's a need for more work on that, because there's certainly not the sophistication and level of information that's available for chickens and other livestock. The question about feed efficiency, well, World Fish just about 2 years ago, through work from one of our researchers who was a chicken geneticist first, which might explain his interest in doing this work, but it took him 2 years to do, because working on the inputs to feeds for fish is very, very difficult, because it's done in water and things dissolve. So that World Fish did publish, I think it's really only the second study that's been done on this globally. That tells you how difficult it is. It's been done before for salmon, and we thought we were detecting a signal that we could select for feed efficiency itself, not just through faster growth, but more work to be done there. So that's two of your questions, and you'll need to remind me about the other.
Disease resistance.
Disease resistance. So coming back to that, World Fish did have the unfortunate circumstance that our core breeding program was infected by Tilapia lake virus, which is an emerging disease. We came through that. We culled all of them. We used backup stock. We're back in business. But through that process, we now know more than anybody else about TILV resistance in tilapia. And we're working with the Roslin Institute in Edinburgh and with the Earlham Institute in the UK also, who are expert in disease resistance in animals. And we are in the process of developing a TILV resistant strain for tilapia. We have biochemical markers for that. We've got DNA markers for disease resistance, and we aim to produce a disease-resistant strain by 2024. So, short answer is we're working on that. Other companies have developed other disease-resistant strains, but we are aware, and there's already evidence on this, that as climate change stresses fish, and you've indicated as they come into more intensive production, there will be more diseases occur. And so we're ahead of the curve looking at that, and it needs to come in combination with the feed efficiency.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I was looking for the audience here, that there are enough work is happening around disease resistance. And when you got the markers, DNA study and everything, and various researchers doing things in combined effort, generally the world is ahead of the curve now. And that's why it is very confident, we're very confident of species and doing things. So, yeah, please.
So just to add one thing that I ought to add to that is that World Fish, in combination with the Earlham Institute, has produced a genome sequence specifically for gift. And that has allowed us a tremendous amount of information to be able to work further on a range of diseases. And it also revealed to us that should get published in the next couple of months, okay? It's very close to coming out. And there were some major differences to the publicly available Oreochromis niloticus genome. GIFT had 50,000 more bits of DNA, and it had several 100 genes that were not in existence in the publicly available one. So more to come. So we've already started on getting genomic tools to enable these more difficult traits like feed efficiency, but disease resistance, so-called resilience traits. We need these genomic tools to address these much, much more difficult traits than simply faster growth.
Thank you, Dr. Benji there. I'm going to quickly take a 30-second answers from Dr. Murali on your experience. Very quick answer, then I'm going to go back on the marketing side and then come back to the resilient side. On the feed conversion, when you started and where you are now, and what is that sense and how it makes a sense for your business?
Sir, FCR, as actually this word decides your profit, I'll say FCR depends upon your culture system first. Like if you are doing in RAS, your FCR will be 1.7 to 1.9. If you are doing cage, it will be 1.5 to 1.7. If you are doing pond, it will be 1.1 to 1.3. If you are doing biofloc, it will be 0.8 to 0.1. This is based on the culture system which you are applying. So you have to decide like what's your target production cost, so which system you need to adopt. And secondly, it depends upon the protein content in the feed also. If you are using 28% to 30% protein feed, the FCR, what I said, is good enough. If you are increasing your protein content to 32 to 34%, the FCR should better increase. But one thing I will say, if you want to go to 24, 22% protein, cheaper feeds are always costlier. I don't look FCR as the deciding factor. I look the feed cost or the feed price into FCR, how much money I'm investing in to produce on feed to produce 1 kilo of fish. This is what it matters to me as a businessman.
Absolutely right, and I'll take you one step back. End of the day, the cost per calorie that you're putting in and the price of calorie you're getting out. That's the equation of animal agriculture. And also decide, so he talked about all these systems, but all system produces different quality produce and everything. So you have to look, it's not high price, I put in more protein, it will come give more profit. No, it doesn't happen. Low cost, you have to set your thing as per your business requirement, as per your market, your target customer, target market and everything, and then come back and see that calorie balances and the system balances has to be done. So go back to now, Mr. Matthew, on this, like farm gate price. Okay, you are selling in India and you are selling in outside. That is not in your control. That's uncontrollable. Okay, how big this is this, and what do you think when we are taking a step on that much of product, scaling up and everything? Okay, so is the scale is going to also have an impact on this, that in your experience that you're saying that you're doing that? Can you talk about it a little bit? And then we go back to climate resilient.
Okay. Thank you, Arvindas. Someone is scared about fresh to home, someone is no fresh to home. So I'm coming to the point. We have 2.3 million registered customers in India. You forget that 2.3, from that 2.3 you forget 1.3. You just heard about the 1 million. That means 10 lakh people. That 10 lakh people, even 500 gram tilapia taking one time in a year. The per month we are selling around 50,000 kilos of tilapia. But unfortunately, in India, we are selling only 25 to 30 tons of tilapia. So we conducted a survey with our CS team, customer support team, and we realized the things. The main competitor is Vietnam Pangasius fillet, Basa fillet. The Basa fillet in Cochin, the south, they are getting between $1.5 to $2 fillet. We cannot imagine even this tilapia in our homeland. We cannot give the tilapia fillet from the farm, we cannot get the $2. That means 160 rupees. So we want to identify what we want to do for combat our market. This is the same thing is happening in the export market also. We are exporting. In Middle East, the pan-ready tilapia is a good market. The pan-ready tilapia is exporting from India only 2 or 3 exporters from Mumbai and 2 or 3 from Gujarat. Because they are getting the tilapia not from the farm, they are getting the tilapia from the dam. So they have no expense for the feed or something. Even then, we are offering the price to Middle East 1.4 to 1.6. But the same Middle East getting the same tilapia pan-ready from China and Vietnam is 1.1 to 1.3. Okay, you forget Middle East, which is a big market for the tilapia. That is in US and Europe. That's a tilapia fillet. In that market, we cannot compete, we cannot offer. Even the Vietnam also not offering there, because China is completely conquering that market. So why? So what happened? I think I'm talking about not the people in present here. I'm talking about the ordinary farmers in India. 90% or 95% farmers is not depending the technology. Not only the farming, the processing also. Why Fresh to Home is selling the fillet, tilapia fillet in that rate? Because we want to get the full amount from that 30% of the fillet. Balance 60 or 70% we are throwing as a waste. But you please visit Taiwan. There is a big factories there. They are using the 100% of the fillet as a different products. They are exporting the fillet to other countries, and they are using the eyes of the tilapia. And they are using the bone of the tilapia. They are using the scale of the tilapia. They are using the skin of the tilapia. They are using the intestine of the tilapia. But we are not using nothing. We need to get the amount of total tilapia from that 30%. That's the main difference. And we want to add some technology in the farming also. I can give a typical example. We are doing, after getting this result from this survey, we are started the pangasius farming in Kerala and Karnataka. When we entering the farming, our farmers is getting 2 kilo of pangasius only after 10 months. So 100% traditional farming. My father did it, that's why I am also doing this. They are not thinking about I am living in another country or another area or another age. They are not thinking, they are doing that. My father did it, that's why I am doing this like. We are entering the farming and we not entering the direct. We are giving 10 farmers, collected 10 farmers, they are doing the business. We are not adding any more technology, just we are checking the quality of the water every week in every pond. We are taking 3-4 people from the Kerala University of Fisheries and Ocean Studies, KUFUS. That was India's first state university. That people, boys is going the whole farm and testing the water, just giving some advice. You please not feed this much. You please feed some more. Or you please add this much in the water. That only. But what is the result? Result is a very big change. Result is we are getting 2 kilo of pangasius within 8 months. So the Kerala, small farmers, you don't compare with the farmers in the Orissa or Andhra. The all farmers interested to do with the farming of the pangasius with the Fresh to Home. I am just this giving an example. So that type of one technology we want to add to our tilapia farming and processing, we can compete. And now the Indian government and the government authorities promoting only the gift tilapias. India is not a small country. India is a big country. We have a different type of climate. We have different type of water. We have different type of soil. We have so many things different. So we want to identify which is a suitable species in Kerala or which is a suitable species in Orissa. Because all different type of water, all different type of all things is different. Because our country is that much big one. So that type of identification, and then we are selecting the suitable things for south. What is a suitable species for north? What is a suitable species for east? Then we can also compete the world.
Thanks, Mr. Matthew. There are two things to remember here in this kind of business. Are you creating value out of the West? No animal agriculture business, whether it's poultry or fishery, can survive if you're not creating value out of because calories given, taken the money in. So it is putting it through the money into the scale, eyes, head, bones, everywhere. But you're taking only the flesh out, then you're leaving the money there, then you're trying to make money through that 30-40% of the meat that you have got. It's not the right business model. But to do that, it is easier said than done. That can only be done when we have got a scale, an integrated approach. You cannot collect fish and bring in and then do this. The poultry industry does because poultry industry is integrated. So integrated approach, whether it's Orissa, near the Hirakud, if it doesn't have the integrated, so you collect, process the fish of that quantum in one place, so you collect the waste. Every industry doesn't do that. There are industry which set up the things is called waste management system. They create value out of it. Your business is to make fillet and sell it, but you have to sell the waste, and they produce fish oil, they produce fish meal, things. Do you know that fish milk production growth is happening in the world? It has grown much faster than the even fish consumption growth. Because that's the need. And that, because the demand is higher and supply is not there, the value created is much more. And now that the whole thing is coming out, cosmetologist and everything coming in, and all the fish oil is selling up to sell. So that's the value created, that's the model. So that is possible only when integrated approach happens. So the learning from here is that when you're stepping into this business, so my recommendation always been from scale committee is that every government has to look at integrated approach. The feed cannot come from Madhya Pradesh to Orissa. That's happening. You cannot be competitive. Supplying, what is the density of that? That 10-ton truck will come 6.5 tons. You're going to spend diesel behind that. Integrated approach, processing, waste processing, everything, and take it. The biggest company in the world, they run their boiler from the tilapia skin and fat. Yeah. So we look at how much money you created, and that should be taken as the bonus for the processing cost of your filling, and which is the manual. Beyond that is that I'm just telling that's and Naga will going to support. This creates huge, humongous, knowing that job opportunity, especially women. For any of this filling, the women employment is higher. So the percentage of in such factories is going to be high. So I'm going to question answer that. So just let me finish. The next thing is that now climate resilience. There's no stoppage in this. You know what is the COP27 is going on starting. Okay, warming will happen. You standardize the fish to a particular water temperature. That's going to go up, down. You know that when it is going to happen. So how are you going to, in those uncertainties, how are you going to see the business and what are the things happening in climate resilience, species development? Now, Dr. Benji and Dr. Murli and Dr. Vijayanand. 1 minute each on this, then we'll go to something else because we are running out of time. Yeah.
Okay, so 1 minute, you'll tap me when I'm done. So I think I've talked before about the feed efficiency and the disease resistance approaches, the need for genomics to deal with these more difficult traits. The one we've been working on is this business of the performance of the fish under oxygen stress. And certainly for smallholder farm, well, any pond or cage, but less so, but mainly ponds, in the night, the oxygen goes down. So very early morning, if it's gone down too far, you've got a pond full of dead fish. And this is going to get more critical. It doesn't mean that it's zero oxygen all day. It's just a critical few hours or maybe just a few minutes. And we've got some characteristics we've been working on that allow us to start to work on a resilience in the face of oxygen stress. So that's just another trait that we're working on as a resilience trait. There's another one about continued growth. So a lot of this is very, very technical, but we are working on those. And if you don't work on it now, the solution won't be there in 5 or 10 years' time. So that's the attitude that World Fish is taking. But in the meantime, there's the fast growth. And we'll have these other products coming online over the next decade. Like I said, TIOV resistance in a couple of years, and then the rest.
Thank you. Dr. Murli, climate resilience and how it's impacting your business and what you're trying to do.
Climate resilience, like first I will answer Matthew sir's view also. Like he said, whether the gift strain is good for India, north, south, like that. Sir, gift strain or Oreochromis niloticus is the best fish in diversity. Yeah. 22 to 34 degrees, it grows very good. Up to 18 degrees, slow down the growth. 13 degrees, it stills the growth. From 8 degrees, it starts dying. I did my first project in Zambia, in Kafia Flats, where the temperature dropped down to 0 in winter. Now I am doing a project in Jordan also, in Jordan Valley, where the temperature dropped down to even minus in the winter. What we do is adaptation. In that time, we overwinter them by taking into greenhouses. After that, we bring them back into this thing. So, Oreochromis niloticus is the best unity and diversity species suitable for India. We can do from Kashmir to Kerala. And again, it grows from 0 salinity to 18 salinity. And at salt water, 18 salinity, you get the best fillet, very good texture of meat. So it is suitable for every water, backwater also, and freshwater also, reservoir water also, or anything else. So I don't see climate as a factor for tilapia. Anywhere, you need to adapt your system. That's all.
Thank you. Dr. Anand, any comments on that? Now, very quickly.
Quickly, I think John and Naga have said the right things. John said they are preparing. Let me take back my words. I say that tilapia is a very hardy fish, very adaptable to any situations, like Naga Murli has said. I remember pulling out tilapia from salt flats of 80 ppt salinity. Now, okay, that's just the fun part. It's a very hardy and very flexible fish. Nevertheless, John and his team in World Fish are still preparing for the future, because you never know what the climate changes. They're trying to make a hardier fish into a much hardier fish. All this said and given, the tilapia is flexible. It adapts to different conditions. Like Naga Murli said, I would relate climate conditions back to something that we have in our own hands. We have no control on the cold climate or the warm climate. It's about the sun and the winter and the seasons. But in order to offset the bad effects of the climate, there are some things that man can do himself. I think somebody spoke about technology. Still, technology is not being used properly. Let me tell you one point which can answer 100 questions. Quite bad in India. I don't mean to subdue somebody or insult somebody, but it goes against the principles of aquaculture. So I better voice it out. There are ponds in India, if you're thinking of scaling up and farming production, there are ponds in India which have never been drained for 5 to 10 years. They are as large as 50 acres. You don't know what's happening in the other end of the pond. Now, here is an environmental system. You have the sky and the weather on top. You have another environmental system that is in your control, which is the water and the pond bottom. And here we have 1 meter of silt beneath, which is a ready bacterial medium for proliferation of any diseases. I think we should take control of this. Then, world fish is hardy strain. And like Naga Murli said, whether it is winter or warmth, you can take care of that to a great extent.
Thank you. Ramalit, I think you brought in two things here that I'm going to say that asset management. Always in business, we look at asset management, and if the asset is not in good condition, you know what is going to have a cost of production. So let us not go back to you're studying, and my father had done, I am going to do, and the same thing. So let us look at the business model that how do I going to take care of my assets? That's what my visit to these villages, or 5 villages, 25 ponds, I see the condition. A huge asset base, but is the asset managed well? So, and what policy we need to bring in, like Orissa is trying to do, to help get them back into productive stage and meaningful productive stage and competitive productive stage that can fit into the world market. So those are the kind of policies, support required from the government side. Second thing I'll tell you, as we're talking about research is happening out of the curve, but India now has to take in charge of doing their own research about, they're doing a lot of things on genomics, but they have to have now, the industry is going to spend money, they have to be worried about feed conversion, they're worried about how fast the growth is, and what texture and what not, everything has to be done, because in-house we cannot. Worldfish is going to there to support, they're supporting Orissa, they're going to support now through the CII, everything, but in-house research, that's a challenge too, is going to come up, and I think India is capable of doing so. Third thing you said, that Dr. Anand, that technology, you can believe that dairy was suffering, technology came in, and it picked up. Now today we predict, today morning I'll predict that what quantum of milk that particular cow will going to give. Similarly, technology has, that simple technology has come in already into the shrimp farming and everything. So technology has to set in for the species and everything. So when the business came in, the entrepreneurs comes in, investment happens, all this ecosystem is prevailing in India. This has to be only targeted to a particular species to make it more profitable and benchmark to the world market. So from there, I'm going to go to one last question, then I'm going to open out for the question and answer session. Last question is that, look at this, Mr. Matthew and Dr. Murali. Now we went from world is looking at fish, whole round fish, fillet. World is over. Same thing was there in some other business, and I've been party to in India. The business was this small in India. Today it is growing. That particular species business growing at around 10%, but the change in the value creation, the value-added product was growing in very less, now it is growing at 30%. Why? Because the next generation is coming in, they are not going to cook the way that we are cooking the fish in our house. They want instant, I'm going to do this and I'm going to put in an oven, I'm going to do this. The value addition that we're talking about. So what do you think, how the market is shaping up and how this consumer behavior is changing and how quickly that will change with both of you? Quickly, then I'll open out the question and answer.
The consumer attitude also is changed in our food industry. Especially, we have our own data. The last 3 years back, we sell it, our RTC and RT product, ready to cook and ready to eat product, only 3 to 4% of our total turnover. But this year, that is come around 11%. And we conducted a survey. The whole survey we conducted by our CS team. So the people is change their mind. And before, when we started the C2 Home, that was in 2012, that time is our selling more than 60% is the whole fish. But now our whole fish selling only 10 to 15%. Because the cleaning time and the cleaning time of the wastage, that is also a very big problem in our country and everywhere. So the people is changing their minds and attitude. They are going to the cut piece. Nowadays, they are again changed to the ready to cook and ready to eat. That means we have a good future for this type of value added products. And even this fillets, in 5-6 years back, Indian market fillet is going only 3 to 4%, but now that is going to 30 to 35%. So the attitude, changing the attitude because the situation of the people or customers. So they are changed. So we have a good future in for this value added product.
So now coming back to the quick answer, then
Sir, like as I said, my farm produces tilapia and tiger shrimps in Ghana. And my wife is also MFSC. She's sitting at home, but looking at the accounts. I said, you need some good job, go into the marketing. So we created an app, we created some WhatsApp groups, we started selling. And it was going okay, we picked up well. But what I thought is like, I'm a chef too, like I cook, I well. So I used to cook some variety dishes, like, butterfly, tiger shrimp, breaded. I put a picture on the app and also a picture on the WhatsApp group. Next day, 120 kilos order. Everybody wants, I want this, I want this. Maybe they order like that. So we found like a marketing promotion needed to be a much wider angle, like virtual marketing, like that. So it should be pleasant. And again, many people are saying like, India people don't like tilapia, don't like pangasis. But if you go to any restaurant, they order it very fancy. I want Apollo fish. What is Apollo fish? Apollo fish is nothing but basa fillet and tilapia fillet. And marl fillet is sold under the name of tilapia fillet. Because basa is rubber. You eat like it's rubber. You choose from this side to that side. So people who know that, they will be given tilapia fillet. Like I went to one restaurant in Nellore and I asked like, they said marl fillet. As soon as they gave the fillet, I said, this is basa fillet. They said, no, it's a marl fillet. I said, Baba, 30 years I'm doing farming and I'm a processor and I'm a producer. So you are telling me this as a marl fillet? Then the chef, main guy said, yes, sir, it's a basa fillet. So we are eating the Apollo fish, paying 400 rupees for a 100-gram dish in a hotel, but we say we don't like tilapia, this is a weed fish. This is insane. So marketing, better awareness, I think we will go to any extent.
yeah, thank you that, that trigger things. I'm coming to the question session, just let me conclude this. One thing you remember that, when we are doing this, fish selling, whole fish, the bottom line that you hit, and when you sell a breaded, when you sell a fillet, the bottom line that you hit, and when you sell a breaded one, and that the money that you get is different. I think Lysias knows this on a hard way in the last few years. I can tell you that I came from Tyson Foods. The whole chicken business, like the dressed one, always struggling. Okay? Because the commodity price is not under control. You take out the value addition, it's like any FMCG business. Okay? Not less than this much percentage of gross margin, and you grow that business. And that business is growing because the whole generation has changed, the consumer generation has changed. So that is an opportunity. Today you provide a fillet, a breaded fillet in India, I can tell you that you're going to run. I can vouch for it because we have done a market research in 30 cities, 5 a.m. on camera, housewives, what he does to 11 p.m. Tyson has done it in this country. We know the consumer behavior have changed in 30 cities covering metro, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. That's why we took that business. So it is that potential market, no one has offered it, so that is silent. So he was saying that, how it is growing. You put it to the more wider distribution, that 11, 12%, 30% will go to 50%. So that is the whole thing, availability. Okay, coming back to now, last I'll take one things to you, sir. This is very close to my heart, even thing. So when you did this whole thing, and I believe, we got to women's self-help group, you took about this ponds and everything you did. What do you think in 2 years' time, how many women are now got into these aquaculture? I'm not talking about tilapia, aquaculture. How many women in the state? Simple, one simple answer, and you'll see.
In last 5 years, around 8,000 self-help groups are in the business, and this year additional 4,000 means 12,000 into 10. So it is about 1 lakh of women. They are in pisciculture with community tank or gram panchayat tanks in Odisha.
So that's the thing I'm saying. This business not only going to do great things, now dollars coming in, going market share. See the social impact that is going to bring in. So your investment as a company is going in, you have to also CSR and everything. You are already bringing in that onto the table, and those women coming into the factory, doing the filling and everything, that's employment generation that Mr. Singhal was talking about in the morning, and this. So it is such a beautiful business. Market is there, research backup is there, everything is there, and a resilient gift tilapia species is here in India. So with that, I must thank Dr. Anand, Dr. Murali, Dr. Benji, and Mr. Banja and Mr. Matthew. Thank you for joining me, and all audience, thank you for your very patient listening. Now I'm going to open out the floor for question and answers, and I'm going to direct the question depending on where the question is coming from. Thank you so much.
Hi, I have the mic here. Yeah, my question goes to Mr. Joseph. He talked about a couple of surveys that they did with the organization. Yeah, my name's Yogesh Bijlani. I head Tayana. So, Mr. Joseph, you mentioned that you did a couple of surveys, and the two changing trends you talked about. The first trend being that there is that whole move from full fish to cut fish to now fillets, right? So you can see customers, and the larger segment is moving towards this. But when we look at the type of fish, we come from a market where traditionally a large number of people are used to the flavor of carps, like, the rohus and the katlas and whatever. And the fact that you've got pangasus and tilapia, which has been introduced, and you've done surveys that the numbers aren't picking up, right? As you shared with us. What is it about the Indian customer and adoption of these new types of fish which seems to be a resistance? And what could be done? There was a suggestion, as Naga said, maybe more marketing. But what are you trying to do within your organization to promote it? Is it that, okay, let's get the fillets because that's a mega trend, and it's just the easier convenience of consumption of these new fish? That could be one way forward. Is that what you're trying to do? Or how are you trying to encourage people to try new fish? Like, for example, I may be a consumer who's always buying carps. I'm not buying tilapia. So how are you trying to overcome this?
So very good question. In South, suppose I am giving an example. In South, especially in Kerala, the people is not using basa. So we started basa farming, and we started a marketing. We are giving 200 and 250 grams basa fillet. Each and every order we are given as a free for our Kerala customers. What happened? The last 3 years, the Kerala people is most eating sardines. The last 3 years, sardine availability was very poor. This year is a very good. The last 3 years. In that time, automatically people buying the basa fillets, especially from fresh to home. So the last 1 month back, one famous Malayalam magazines interviewed me, and the front page with us, the Malayalis changed from sardine to basa. So that's a marketing. Marketing is a very essential thing to give. That's a very typical example for the egg in India. The Egg Council is doing the very big market for 3-4 years back. You eat one egg, minimum one in a day, right?
Correct.
So that will make a big change for the egg market in India. So the tilapia's advantage is all type people is like tilapia, from the south to north. But katla and rohu, the south people will not interested in katla and rohu, because that flesh, in the flesh the kata is there, no? That's why the south people is not interested to katla and rohu. But south, north, south, west, everywhere, people are interested. They have no complaint against the tilapia. So tilapia have a big chance. We want to market the things. Just like the basa we did in Kerala.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Keep your context short so that we can take more questions. Yeah.
Sure. My name is Parthabatim Das. I had a consulting firm in the space of market entry and technology commercialization. There were two questions raised in terms of India as a country. One is how we can double our export, and second was that awareness creation. In the export space, I have a thought, I just wanted your techno-commercial feasibility on that, that this being a freshwater fish, and most of the export produce which have gone in terms of seafood are from salt water. How about marketing these fishes in island countries or island city states wherein fresh water is not available and these fish should be there? And the starting point can be targeting Indian diaspora over there, and thereafter it can be taken forward. That's one. Second thing for Dr. Murli, as you have a lot of expertise in Africa, Nile tilapia and the Kenyan part of Lake Victoria has tilapia in a big way. And even in Nairobi and all, it sells like hotcakes, the whole of tilapia as such. Can that be superimposed or developed in India in terms of lake cultivation, river cultivation for tilapia? And we have deliberated a lot about supply side dynamics, economics, even demand side, but not much more on the consumer end, which has been asked in the previous context also. Well, I'll not talk about the south of India, which I'm not much aware of, but in eastern India, fish has a very close connect with the household in the auspicious ceremonies too. Now, the carps that we're talking about, starting from Hilsa, then Katla, then Rohu, that's the consideration flow that goes in. Top of the mind, spontaneous, and post that. It's not a commodity. Though it's a commodity, it's more of a brand that matters. I might be from across the socio-cultural, socio-economic classification, but what gets cooked in my kitchen is very important. I might not have that affordability, but I'll go for eating Hilsa once in a year. And the Bangladesh Hilsa, when it comes, it sells like hotcakes within 4-5 hours in Kolkata. Given that thing, awareness is not the main thing. What concrete, because this is more of societal thing, society, how we are going to target that thing so that in the society, consideration set, tilapia comes above the carps. This is a question which needs to be
Thanks. Dr. Murli, you want to take the questions and now go to the
so
next.
the first thing what you asked is like whether we can promote tilapia culture in island places, right? Export.
We have huge abundance of freshwater tilapia,
Yep.
and we need to double our export. Now, my point was that these are emerging markets which can be targeted. We will target those, say Mauritius, say Singapore. They won't have freshwater, bodies as such as we have, but they have Indian diaspora. Now, that can be a target point for us to sell our tilapia. Your thought?
Yeah, like tilapia which goes from Kerala to Oman or Dubai is all for Indians only. It's for an Asian market there. And
that's already explored. That's Red Ocean. I'm talking about Green Ocean. Blue Ocean.
Like basically Singapore is getting its tilapia from Malaysia. So they have abundant availability of Malaysian tilapia to Singapore. So see, basically there are some myths to be cleared in this. Indian tilapia, whatever is getting exported, it's a thin tilapia. The tilapia which is coming from the reservoirs, they don't have much meat on them. It's little bit bad perception is there in the international markets. Indian tilapia is a cheap tilapia with very thin skin so far. We have to change that. Once the production of tilapia from the ponds or the reservoirs where fatty tilapia comes, and when people try to taste it, then we can create a brand for our Indian tilapia. This is the best tilapia. And then we can try every place. That's the first thing I'll say, sir. Second one, you asked about the Kenyan one. Kenya also doing Oreochromis niloticus only. But maybe it's like a different strain. Mostly, I think Kenya, they are doing Chitralada. Some people, yeah.
Some local strain.
Yeah, some Chitralada strain has gone from AIT, and some people are doing Chitralada. And some people feel Chitralada is doing better than Gift or something like that. See, basically, they are all same. How you grow them and how you feed them is thing. But in Kenya, when you are talking about, in Kenya, there is one salt-tolerant tilapia which grows in even 35 ppt also. And that has been taken to Saudi now, and they are growing that in 80 ppt also. That grows equally good to Oreochromis niloticus. So in Kenya, that is also having a preference. And if you go to Nigeria, there is one Sarotherodon species, Sarotherodon galileus, which they call as Lagos lagoon tilapia. They have a preference there. So apart from Oreochromis niloticus, some other tilapia species which are growing big have a local taste. Those things, I don't know whether we can explore it or not, but Oreochromis niloticus gift strain, we have tried even at 35 salinity in shrimp ponds in Nigeria. They did fantastic. Only it needs acclimatization. So I hope I address all your questions.
Thanks, Nagade. So any other questions there?
The third question wasn't answered.
Can you repeat the question?
Well, the third question was that it's not awareness, it's how we can evolve the consideration set of tilapia.
Tilapia, so to go...
I'll say like in 1984s or 85s, when the heart attacks in India has started well and people are dying, Saffola has taken the advantage of saying that you shift from your groundnut oil to sunflower oil, you don't die because of heart attack. So today I will say tilapia is having the least LDL, and if you eat along with the skin, you will stay young for more time. It's all marketing. It's all marketing and clearing the myths.
So the socio-cultural thing that's existing for centuries, how we can cut through that. It's cutting the clutter in branding.
I'm answering that. Okay. So what happens is that as a give and take thing, unless otherwise marketing money goes into the market doesn't grow. More player comes in. Like initially, Leisure started. I know the first year. I know the whole story of month by month and first set of investment, second set of investment. The more people came in. Okay, now you see the whole basket has grown. The consumers, that numbers have grown phenomenally. Okay, and I don't want to talk about their turnover numbers or their turnover numbers and how multiples has happened in 3, 4 years, 5 years. That's a separate issue. But more organization comes in. More integrated approach happens, more investment comes into this business, more consumer-facing business comes into the process, more advertisement happens, more consumer awareness goes in, and everything starts happening, and that's the whole thing starts there. I'm answering that question that's coming. Today, if you're talking, because I have done a lot of work around, sitting in scaling scale committee, choosing this. Arun, we have talked about this, Hilsa. At a 1,600 rupees kg Hilsa, will it find a plate whose income is 20,000 rupees a month? Because I'm answering from the point of view how we took. There is an ad run when there was a whole inflation goes high. I create saying, chicken dal se sasta. And we drove it. You know that? Construction worker coming and picking up Tyson chicken. You know what is the kind of growth happened that time? And we didn't lose money. There's a price point. Now coming back to, so Kerala has got a definite thing. They eat a particular, sea fish or less bone on the meat, or no bone. Northeast a particular fish and the way they make it. And so is Orissa, and so is Bengal, and so is Madhya Pradesh, and so is Maharashtra. Every state has this thing. But the moment you put on the plate something, okay, which is the consumer say that okay has got a value for money, they will pick it up. And this is not a myth I'm talking about. I'm coming to that. In this process, how much of market research has been done, consumer research? When the organization comes in, I told you, a company coming from the US and doing a 30s, cities, hundreds of consumer in camera, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. inside home. And she is going to market, the camera follows. That's the kind of consumer research comes out. Then insights comes out. From insight comes, then what we're talking about is from your experience, but inside might be something else. So when the research happens, insights comes in, then the marketing team comes in, product research innovation comes in, product is made to target, segmentation and consumer will be done. Some consumer will be preferring this, and prefer this. I come from East. I like hilsa, but I don't like with bones. So when I go to Bangladesh, I eat in Taj sandwich, hilsa sandwich without bones. Okay, I love it. So if somebody tomorrow brings in a hilsa patty without a bone, I'm there. These are the insights. And that triggers the business, and that triggers the value addition, that triggers the money, and that the whole growth of the sector. So I'm giving from my experience. I understood where you're coming from, and to do this, more industry comes in, more investment goes in market research. So that is the thing. And we are now talking about from scale committee, can we target countries we are targeting? Can we do a market research to find the, what is that we are trying to sell? We are not trying to sell tilapia, we are trying to sell what the consumer is looking for. That's two different things there. So that's the whole thing. Yeah. So you come in, then I'm going to take go to the lady who has a question. Yes, please.
My name is Arun from World Fish. I have one observation from Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, if you look at whole country, their tilapia production in 2005, the production was less than 10,000 tons. Now they have achieved more than 4 lakh tons, 40 times within 15 years. But that production, and it is taking about 18% of the total aquaculture production today. And it is all sold in the local market. It is not for the export because they are consuming. The impact of tilapia introduction on the other fish, was there any impact because of tilapia, did that affect the consumption pattern of carps or other fish? No. Carp was growing at a CAGR of 6%, and it kept on, it went on at 6% even after 2005. It did not get affected by this one. But the tilapia grew at 60% CAGR. It is such a, growth has happened. So what this means, it could be, one of the factor could be, it has attracted a group of consumers at the bottom of the consumer pyramid. That's what I feel. Those who couldn't afford carps at 300 taka, now they got tilapia for 200 taka, 30% less price. So if we target in India, Indian context, there are so many, if you look at the National Family Health Survey reports, we have, say, 70% of fishitarian population in India. That comes to more than 100 crores today's population. But only around 30% are eating once a week, and 70% are occasional eaters, maybe once or twice a year. And many of them couldn't afford the fish. For them, probably today the carp price, it is the benchmark price, it is 200 rupees at retail. If we can bring a fish at 120 rupees or 150 rupees at retail, I think it is going to attract a new segment of consumers who are not into that, and more regular consumption. This is what my feeling. Thank you.
You are absolutely right. That's what I was trying to hit it, that, the different segmentation. Yes, in the back.
Yes.
Please introduce yourself and ask your question.
Good evening. I am Professor Reena Chakraborty, Department of Geology, University of Delhi. Actually, I want to add some science in the business, because we know that fish is an healthy food, and all of us are liking fish not only for taste, but it is giving us a nutritionally balanced diet. Because in case of freshwater fishes, always we are telling that there is less omega-3 fatty acid, but fish is always getting all this nutrition through their food chain. When we are culturing the fish in the intensive condition, if we are giving them better quality of food, it should not be expensive. Because in our laboratory we have done, and also in other laboratory I have seen people are working with the freshwater macrophytes and plant-based diet, and there is some ingredient like ALA. And we are always thinking about the heart problem and other things, and we know that omega-3 fatty acid, DHA and EPA, they are very good. And these carps and these tilapia, they have the capacity to convert the ALA to DHA and EPA, which are very good for our heart patient. So we can, if we do this kind of research and if we can translate it into our business activities, then it will be very good. We will get very good market, as well as we can supply quality food to our consumers also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's the thing, I'll tell you, functional marketing, functional marketing. So that's what now that's what is happening now.
So very good market
strategy.
Marketing.
You see now you can buy a face cream functional, okay, skin cream functional, shampoo functional. Everything has become functional now in our life. So this is also functional. Thank you very much. There are no questions, so I think thank you for staying back a little bit of more time. But we are a very so round of applause for every one of you. So thank you so much. And I must thank CII and the team behind Rajamani, Rutuja, and others there, so for doing a great job. And I must thank Arun from Worldfish, involved in India's operation here and supporting Orissa and creating this beautiful video today you saw, and a lot of great work, very passionate. Thank you so much, Arun, and thank Dr. Benji, diverting you from COP27 to land in India, go back, and Dr. Murli coming from Ghana to here and share your experience. Thank you so much. Dr. Banja, thank you so much.
Thanks to you.